everybody, and welcome to another ThunderQuack Network Roundtable. And this time we're going to be talking with Paul from the Talking Time Lords podcast, and I'm Kurtis from the Pullbox podcast. We're going to be talking about Star Wars, and more importantly, what we think and what we expect and what we hope to see from this new Star Wars movie. I said it before. I'm Kurtis. I'm one of the hosts at the Pullbox podcast, which is a monthly graphic novel podcast. I'm here. Is that you?
I'm muting it. Better?
What is that?
There's a delay.
Oh, I see.
Yes. We're good. Just mute it and keep going.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. That was distracting. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Where were we at? I forgot where we were now. Let's start over again. I'm Kurtis from Pullbox Podcast, and it's a monthly graphic novel book club that I run with Mike Cohen. And Paul, introduce yourself.
I'm Paul Gann. I'm with the Talking Time Lords podcast. We literally just released our 25th episode.
Hey, I think we are releasing our 25th episode tomorrow.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. We're doing our best to try to make it weekly. And so far, we've done pretty good. We've only missed 2 weeks, I think.
That's quite a commitment.
May. So yeah, we're having a blast.
Good.
Yeah.
Joining us later will be Kyle from one of those other Star Wars podcasts. I don't even know which one. Sorry, Kyle. He'll explain it.
Star Wars: The Saga Continues.
Yeah. Okay. He's probably going to be the most knowledgeable out of all of us to talk about this particular
I think it's
subject.
kind of funny that we're having a Star Wars discussion and neither one of us are involved with Star Wars podcasts on the network.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I will say that this month on Pullbox Podcast we read 3 of the new Marvel Star Wars comics, and so we'll be releasing those episodes throughout the month. And it was a lot of kind of Mike talking Star Wars and me kind of going along for the ride for the most part. But it was good still.
Trust me, I love Star Wars. It's just because I'm not on a Star Wars podcast doesn't mean that I don't love Star Wars. Right.
Well, yeah, me too. I'm just not as in depth as Mike is. That's for sure. Yeah. We do want to mention also for all of you who are Patreon supporters that we have a special giveaway coming up. Actually, right now, it's a digital bundle giveaway that we will be. Let's see what's part of it. We're giving away
$25 Amazon gift card.
Oh yeah, that's right. And I think that's all we're announcing at the moment.
We just announced the digital copy of Jurassic Park.
Okay. So there you go. Yeah. $25 for Amazon.com. Jurassic Park digital copy, and there will be something else that we're going to announce adding to this bundle next week. So if you are a Patreon supporter, you're automatically entered into this draw. It's our way of saying thank you for supporting us. If you are not a Patreon supporter, all you have to do is donate at least $1. We'd love it if it was maybe $100 or $200, but $1 will be enough to get you into this draw. And then we will announce the winner at our next Roundtable podcast, which will be on the 18th, which we will be talking about Star Wars again, the new Star Wars, because all of us will have already seen it on the 17th. When are you seeing it, Paul?
I'm seeing it on the 17th at 7.
Nice. Yeah, I'm seeing it on the 17th at 7 as well, which is 2 hours behind you, so you will already have watched it.
So you want me to send you all the spoilers, right?
No. Let's just wait till the 18th when we can talk about it together. Actually, I have tickets for the 18th as well. Almost, I think, exactly at the time when that roundtable is happening. So I won't be a part of the roundtable.
Yeah, I told Jason. I said I'm going to send you all the spoilers while I'm watching them on the screen, so that you'll know exactly what's happening in the theater. And he's like, "If you do, I will murder you."
Yeah, it's best practice to turn off your phone completely. All day, probably that day. Yeah, it's going to be quite something. Well, what do you? I guess we could jump right into talking about our fan theories. what do you think, Paul? What is one of the things that you expect to happen in this movie?
One of the things I expect to happen. I'm doing my best to stay away from like the stuff that's too spoilery, and doing my best to stay away from leaked stuff. Now, I have seen a couple of leaked photos or whatever, but I mean, you just run across those things by accident sometimes and stuff. So, but I'm trying to stay as much in official stuff as I can, because I do want to experience it in the theater. But anyway, just based on the official stuff that I've seen, my personal opinion is that the Knights of Ren that we've heard talked about will possibly be one of the, or maybe even the main reason why Luke is not in the picture.
And why do you think? What do you think that is?
Well, do you want me to go into my full theory and tell the whole
that's
thing?
Why we're here, buddy. That's why we're here.
Or do you want me to tell you in sections? Because I can tell you in sections, or I can tell you the whole thing.
Well, however you think, however you want to do it.
My theory is that Kylo Ren and Rey are very likely sister and brother.
Okay, yeah.
And that there's maybe scenario was Luke was training the two of them in the Jedi arts, and possibly the Knights of Ren attacked them, and the two of them are thought to be dead. And Luke,
you mean Luke and Kylo Ren?
No, I mean Rey and Kylo Ren.
Oh, okay.
Are thought to be dead by Luke.
Yeah.
And by their parents, who I'm assuming would be Han Solo and Leia.
Okay.
I think that Luke would blame himself for their supposed deaths, and that Kylo would possibly have been taken by the Knights of Ren and indoctrinated into their way of thinking. And then he has worked his way through the ranks to possibly be their leader at this point. Okay. That's my thinking. I think that Luke has probably gone into hiding the same way that Yoda did, because he blames himself for the scenario.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I think that that what we're going to see is we're going to find out that both Rey and Kylo are Han's children, and that they don't know it because they were too young to remember. You know, I think it's probably been like 20 some odd years since this was supposed to have happened, and they don't actually remember who their parents are.
Okay, Charles, in our sidebar here, he left a comment. No way, he says. Okay, Charles, this is your chance to speak up. Why you think that Paul is off his rocker? Charles says that Kylo is probably Luke. He's subscribing to the it's a common theory that has been around, that Kylo is probably Luke.
I disagree with that.
Why do you disagree with that?
Well, because we already know who Kylo is. We know that he's played by Adam Driver. So,
but that doesn't mean that it has to. Like, they could do a bait and switch, right?
Theoretically, yeah, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we've seen at least one or two official photos that show him without his helmet on.
Yeah.
And it's clearly, Adam Driver.
The thing that I always come back to when talking about this subject is Batman Begins, and how what's his name, Liam Neeson was scheduled before he was announced to play a character called Ducard, and the guy who played Ra's al Ghul is Ken Watanabe.
Mm-hmm.
So that. And then all of a sudden we find out, oh, wait a minute, when the movie came out in theaters, that's not the way it was at all. So I always say that that's a possible, it could be a possible scenario with this part, this situation here
well,
too.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that I just don't personally think it's going to happen.
Do you think Kylo Ren is going to? You say you've seen him with his mask off, but was that just like behind the scenes stuff, or is he going to be a Darth Vader type character where he's always going to wear his mask?
There's at least one shot I know in the official trailer that shows him from the back.
Oh yeah, and he looks kind of like Hayden Christensen here,
and you can see the black hair,
Yeah.
And then I know that I've seen other shots, either from behind the scenes or from official photos where he has no mask on. So,
yeah. Well, my theory revolving Luke is that Luke is the new Emperor, and Kylo Ren is his apprentice. I mean, I have nothing to base it on or anything like that. This is just, I think it'd be cool. It would kind of mirror events that have happened in the past. And I think Mark Hamill, knowing him, how he's played characters like the Joker, he would be cool. He'd be a cool bad guy.
Oh, I definitely think he'd be a cool bad guy. Don't get me wrong. I just don't see Luke going to the dark side. I just don't.
Well, I don't know. There are times, like throughout Return of the Jedi, they keep you wondering if he's gone to the dark side there, and maybe that's just the beginning. And then the span of however many years it's been between those movies, he just kind of falls deeper and deeper into the dark side.
For me personally, as far as from a storytelling standpoint, I just feel like that if you do that, you're actually voiding and nullifying everything that happened in Return of the Jedi.
Right. Well, what do you mean by that?
I mean, he definitively stated in Return of the Jedi that he had made his choice, that he would not turn. And he even, even to the point to where he helped his father return back to the light side. And for him to then turn around and flip and go the opposite direction, you're basically just nullifying everything that happened in that movie,
That's true. But then it would beg the question, what on earth would it take to turn Luke to the dark side? Like if he actually was on the dark side in this new movie, something pretty drastic must have happened during this time, and that's kind of a good way to tell the story, right? It's like you plunk yourself down in the middle of this situation where a whole bunch of stuff has happened, characters are drastically different than we remember them, and then we get to kind of put the pieces together.
Well, we know Han's going to be different because we literally got the shot in the trailer where Han in the original film says, "I don't believe in all of the hocus pocus and the mumbo jumbo." And then he's standing in the exact same spot on the Falcon, telling them the Force is real, the Jedi are real, it's all real. So we know that Han has changed as a character drastically.
Right. Yeah, well, maybe that's part of being married to Leia. Maybe he gets to experience all that firsthand.
Now, there's a lot of speculation that he's not going to be married to Leia in this movie, that maybe they're separated or even divorced at this point.
Yeah, I guess that could be true.
I don't know.
Maybe he's married to Chewbacca.
And
I don't know how things work way out there in space.
Oh, wow. That's ooh.
Well, obviously he's had some experience to change his mind, though.
I'll put it this way. Based on the theory that I've already put out there, that would be something, if that happened, if Han and Leia had kids and they thought that their kids were dead, that could definitely be something that would tear a marriage apart.
For sure, especially if Luke had anything to do with it, and one sides with Luke and the other doesn't, or I don't know.
Right.
We have a couple of other theories on the side here. Charles wants to also let us know that Luke went to the dark side in the expanded universe. There were times that he's done that, so that's not impossible. Like anything can happen, but all of that is not continuity anymore.
Canon anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Anthony says,
honestly, there's a lot of those stories I wish still were canon, but they had to clean the slate. So.
Right. Well, and you can still enjoy them as stories. Everyone can pick and choose their own Star Wars, right? That's fine with me. So Anthony says, I have a theory that we will start out the film thinking with Rey and Finn that they and Leia and Han are on the side of good, but then we find out that they're actually on the wrong side, and Luke is the only one who is actually on the side of light. Whoa, that would be a pretty big switch there too.
Wow.
Yeah. That I mean, it doesn't. Just the way that they act in the trailer, they don't act like they act like they don't know what's going on. So it would be surprising to me if they actually were. I mean, they could be. If Leia and Han were on the dark side, then the kids could follow, but not fully understand what's going on because they're just influenced by their parents, perhaps. I don't know. But yeah, that's, I guess that could happen too, for sure. Wow. What do you think? Do you think we're going to see any other returning characters besides Luke, Leia, and Han? Do you think we'll see more of?
We already know that we're going to see Admiral Akbar because he's in one of the shots in the trailer.
Okay.
And Nine Num or Neen Num, we're going to see him.
Okay.
From the one that was the co-pilot for the Falcon in Return of the Jedi. So we know that those two characters are at least going to have a cameo appearance in the movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, at some point there will be a cameo with C-3PO and R2-D2. I mean,
I should hope so.
C-3PO's got a red arm in this movie. We don't know why. Yeah.
Because he's bad. Because he's the bad guy. It's like a red lightsaber.
I could not see 3PO going bad. That would be just so funny.
So we just read Mike and I just read the Darth Vader comics from Marvel, and in there is a protocol droid called 000, and he looks exactly like C-3PO, except he's kind of a dark metallic color. But he's completely evil. He's programmed to hurt and torture and maim, and like it's hilarious. It's so funny.
Now, see, for me to see C-3PO going evil would be like seeing Mr. Bean go evil. You see what I'm saying? I just can't. I can't picture it.
Well, like I said, they could something pretty drastic would have to take place in between movies in order for that to happen. I mean, he just be reprogrammed. It's not like he has to make a conscious choice to be good or bad. He can change his programming.
The closest I think he ever came to going evil was that one little tiny scene in episode 2. Die, Jedi dogs. What did I just say?
Matt wants to comment on the side here. He says that Rey has her staff in almost every shot and promotional stuff so far. I think that staff will have some significance. And what do you think of that staff? I didn't even notice it.
I heard somebody comment about that on an interview, and the response was, "It's just a staff." But for me personally, what I would like to see is I would like to find out at some point that it's actually got a lightsaber built into it.
Yeah, I think that's probably what I'm guessing as well. Like if she opens it up and there's a I don't know.
There's been characters in the past that had light staffs, that has the blade come out of the end of the staff, and it's basically like a super long handled lightsaber.
Right.
I think that'd be really cool to see.
Now, do you think what color is it going to be? Blue, red, something else?
I think it'd be cool if it was something else. I mean, because we always see green and blue and red, and those are fine. But I think it would be neat to see like yellow or something in one of the films, because we've gotten to see that in like some of the video games and stuff, but never in the films, at least not up close and personal. I think there might have been like a yellow one way back in the background in like the arena fight scene or something, but it's never been in the forefront,
Now, my knowledge on lightsaber construction is a little rusty. Does the color have any significance with the person, or is it just mainly to do with the crystals that are inside?
There's well, I don't know if it's still canon or not, but there was a list that was put out that went with the EU books and stuff that talked about how like blue, I think, was representative of Guardian, I think, and they had like the blue represented one thing, green represented something else.
Kind of like all of the different lantern rings, the Green Lantern rings.
Sort of, but of course, the crystal that you put in the saber actually determines the blade color. And
right, I figured that.
The different types of crystals have different intensities as far as the strength and the power and everything. And of course, the most powerful blade is the red, but it's not found in nature. It's actually synthetic. They have to create it artificially.
Okay.
So at least that's what it has been up to this point. They may change it, in the new canon, but those the most powerful is the red, and that's why the Sith choose to use, or the dark side users choose to use that. It's because it's the most powerful.
Now, what about it makes it more powerful? Like it's a stronger beam of light, or it lasts longer?
It's more intense. It burns hotter. It's just overall more powerful.
Oh, okay. Because it's man-made, and they can enhance that kind of stuff.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So on the side here, Stephen wants to say that he wished they would bring in a light whip. I think that'd be kind of cool. And every new Star Wars has to kind of add their new twist on lightsabers, right? And like Phantom Menace had Darth Maul's double lightsaber and that kind of thing. And then later on, General Grievous had 4 lightsabers going at the same time. And now we have this new lightsaber that has the 2 little parts that are jutting out the sides,
right?
That create kind of like a little hilt or something. A light whip would be kind of cool, but we haven't really seen lightsabers that are flexible. They're pretty solid.
Well, the technology from what is in the role-playing book that I have at the house, they said that it's basically a laser encased in a force field. So, whether or not you can make a force field bendable and flexible, I don't know. But that's what they said in the role-playing game.
Okay. So. Anthony says that he thinks there was some sort of powered whip in one of the Clone War episodes, and Charles says they were in the expanded universe as well. I'm sure Mike could pop in and tell us that as well. I think Mike's listening to us right now. But if they're there, then I say let's see them. That'd be great.
Well, if it's in the Clone Wars, then it's canon, so it can be in anything.
Right.
So,
what do you think is going to be the main story or the main objective of this movie? Do we know that kind of stuff now?
My thought is that we know that Anakin's original saber is in this movie, which was then passed to Luke. We know that much. It's actually in the trailer. You can see it. I'm thinking that the MacGuffin is going to be that saber. That's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong. It could not even show up until halfway through the film, but I'm just thinking that's going to possibly be an item that is in some way significant for them possibly finding Luke Skywalker.
Hi, am I here again? I cut up for a second there. Am I back?
Yeah, I think we froze up for a second.
Okay, I'm back. I think. Are we still playing? Someone let us know. Okay, sorry, I missed. Can you tell me what you just said because I missed it because Firefox crashed?
Nice. No, I was saying I think that Anakin's original saber, which of course was Luke's original saber, I think that that's going to be somehow significant in them finding Luke Skywalker.
Oh, okay, nice. And who do you think is going to end up with the lightsaber in the end?
Well, we know that Finn has it at one point in the movie because we see him actually about to square off with Kylo in the snow forest in the trailer. So we know that he has it at some point, but I don't know if that would be something that was passed over to Rey, or because honestly, in my personal opinion, I feel like that Rey is going to be sort of the Luke Skywalker character in this movie.
Yeah, that would make sense to me. If they're following the family bloodline, then that would make sense. If she's a Skywalker, I guess we don't technically know that either.
And in the international trailer, now I don't know what context it was in because they chop all this stuff up, but I know that she has a line in that says that she's waiting for her family or looking for her family in that. So apparently she either doesn't know who her family is or she knows who they are and she's, been waiting for them for so long,
right?
Become kind of numb. So.
Wow. We haven't talked about Finn for very much, or at all, actually. What are your thoughts on his character?
Well, I think as far as the how do you put it? Not stereotype, but the classification, I guess you'd say, of his character in the movie, I think is going to be something that we've maybe not seen in the original trilogy before, because we've had the smuggler, we've had the fallen princess, we've had the farm boy who has aspirations. We've not really seen, other than in Clone Wars, we've not really seen the soldier who gets misplaced, and so that's to me what we're going to see in Finn. We're going to see Finn basically pulled out of everything that he knows and put in a position where he has to make a choice as to where he wants to his life to go at that point.
So you're referring to the fact that we see him in a stormtrooper outfit,
right? So I honestly believe that he's going to start out as a stormtrooper and that he is going to have a crisis of conscience and he's not going to feel comfortable following his orders that he's been given, and that's when everything is basically going to fall apart for him, and he's going to have to start making decisions that he's not comfortable with.
Yeah, Anthony on the side here, Anthony says that Finn, he thinks Finn will be more along the Han kind of role, sort of dragged into the fight against his will. I can see that too, based on just the way that he acts and the fact that the whole are you ready? And then he says, "Hell no!" kind of attitude. Like that's
right.
It seems like he gets separated perhaps from the rest of the stormtroopers, and then has to kind of survive and falls into this other group of people.
Right.
But yeah, he seems like it's going to be kind of a bumbling adventure for him.
Well, he seems very reluctant to. He seems more like that. He just wants to get away, and the more he tries to get away, the more he gets pulled into this situation.
Yeah.
At least that's what I'm gathering from the trailer. Excuse me.
Do you think there's going to be some sort of romance between Finn and what's her name?
Honestly, I think it's too early to say at this point. I think it's possible, but I know how JJ is about mixing things up and things like that. And I think that he is just as likely to not have that happen in this movie as he would be to have it happen in this movie, because I think that there would be sort of an expectation of people to have this happen. And I think that just because the expectation is there, he might not do it for that reason, Yeah,
possibly. the romance plays heavy in the prequel trilogy,
Mhm.
and then it doesn't really have a place in the original trilogy at all. A tiny little bit, but not really. So I think in terms of just the sequence of events, we're due to get some sort of romance in this somewhere. Maybe that's Luke and no, maybe it's Leia and Han making up or something. I don't know if they're divorced. On the side here, let's see. Matt says Andy Serkis said that his character has to be motion captured because it couldn't be done with prosthetics. Serkis said that Snoke is big and he's undoubtedly not just a man at all, not just a man in quotes. In fact, there's something about the way he looks that defies conventional makeup. Hence all the performance captures. Could he be playing Darth Plagueis? I don't even know who that is. I'm just not Star Wars.
Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis was first mentioned in Episode 3, where Palpatine was talking to Anakin, and he asked him, "Have you ever heard of the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise?" And he was talking about how Darth Plagueis had learned how to cheat death.
Okay. Oh, that would make sense for him to pop up then eventually.
He said he had learned how to cheat death, but then he was murdered by his own apprentice after his apprentice learned how to cheat death as well. So, yeah.
Okay, well, that's an interesting
theory. In the books that came out after that, we find out that Palpatine was Darth Plagueis' apprentice, and he was the one that killed him.
Okay,
so,
wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's a pretty cool theory. I'd like to see that play out then.
Well, it wouldn't be too far fetched at that point for him to be able to cheat death and come back in some form.
Maybe in the body of Luke. There you go. And then he's the new emperor. That's my theory. That's my fan theory right there.
Oh wow.
I'm excited to see more of BB-8, to see what role he plays other than just cute comic relief sidekick. Because in the other, like, he's compared to R2-D2, of course, who actually plays a very critical role in all of those movies, and so does 3PO. So the droids have their place, and I want to know what BB-8's role is going to be. Role is kind of a pun because he just rolls around. But what is BB-8's role in this film?
Well, we know at least at one point that he flies with Poe Dameron in his X-wing.
Yeah.
So
I've seen them in the Lego set.
I'm thinking, now this is just based on the scenes in the trailer and whatnot. I'm thinking that at some point BB-8 gets separated from Poe. I think he starts out as Poe's droid, and I think that he gets separated from Poe and then gets found in some way by Rey. Possibly, she gets him off of another scavenger or something. I know she's a scavenger as well, but I think maybe because we see a picture where she is possibly maybe pulling him out of a net that somebody had him in. So I think that there's.
I always assumed that she had put him in the net for transport or something like that. Maybe
I'm not sure, but I know that it looks like that they're taking him off the back of that creature, and that he was in the net to be transported in that. So I don't know if we're going to have a scenario where it would be something similar to the Jawas in A New Hope with 3PO and R2. And she ends up with him that way, or if it'd be something else.
I'd love to see the narrative of this movie follow BB-8, sort of like how the narrative of A New Hope follows the two droids. Mm-hmm. I really like that little storytelling element there, and I'd love to see that come out in this new movie too. Anthony has a couple other things to say. From JJ about Maz Kanata. He also explained that the eyes hiding behind those goggles have special meaning and power. He said, I guess he's quoting J.J. Abrams and saying, I had some specific ideas about how she would work and what she would do. He continued, and then more of his quote. I had this pitch about these goggles that she wore. Her eyes are an important aspect of her character, and you'll see how it plays out.
Now, see, that could actually go back to one of the speculations that I heard online, that she will actually be able to see through the Force, and that might be how they would get away with having flashbacks but not having flashbacks in the movie, is to have her have a Force vision,
right?
So that they can actually show the flashbacks in the movies without actually having a flashback in a Star Wars movie.
And then find out how Luke became so evil that he became the Emperor.
Oh.
You gotta, that's how they're gonna put those pieces together.
Oh, you're not gonna let that go, are you?
We'll see. We'll see on the 18th. I'm not gonna put money on it, but I claim bragging rights if I'm correct. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, supposedly she's the same age as Yoda too. He just commented about that as well.
Right. Wow. So maybe we can get a you know how they're gonna make one Star Wars movie a year. We can get a little buddy film with her and Yoda fighting side by side.
If they ever tell a young Yoda story, she might be in it, right?
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see a young Yoda story. I'd go see that in a heartbeat.
I'm just curious as to what he would look like. There's been different conceptual artwork, pieces done, but I've never seen anything official as to what he would actually look like.
I bet he'd have more hair. That's it.
One of the ones I saw had him with this long black hair with a ponytail, and all of this. And I'm not opposed to that, I think it'd be really interesting to see what he looked like as a younger character.
And what is his species? Is he just?
We don't know. It's never been told. He's been left basically to mystery, and so that's one reason why I would almost say that I don't want to see a movie
right.
about him made as a younger character, because it would take away the mystery. But at the same time, if it's done well, it could be fun.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of Disney. That's what they do, is take those stories and tell. I mean, we got a story about the Little Mermaid, what happened to her mom, and no one was asking for that. So if people are actually asking for a Yoda story, then they'll tell it. Yep. Anthony tells us that Lucas put a block on Yoda's species at Homeworld, but Lucas isn't in charge anymore.
Exactly, that's the thing. Now, there's been a lot of stuff said about them drastically departing from Lucas's original vision on this trilogy and things like that. And I don't know how much of that is real and how much of that is not real. I do know that Lucas has said that they decided to take things in a different direction, but to what extent is the question. Have they kept the bare bones of his story intact and just changed, some aspects of it, like certain ages of certain characters and things like that, or have they actually completely wiped it clean and started over from scratch? We don't know. I would kind of like to know to what extent they've taken it in a different direction.
Well, I'm sure we will find out eventually, because I bet you anything later on down the road we'll get a nice release. Someone will publish Lucas's original episode 7 script or something like that, and because they want to make more money, and people will buy it. So we'll find that out.
Well, it would be nice if they at least respected the material enough to keep the bare bones of it,
Yeah. Oh, look who we have here.
We have Kyle.
What's up, guys?
welcome, Kyle. We're glad you're here to join us for this party. We've talked about a lot, so we're happy to hear some new theories that you have here. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then dive into something that's on your mind.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm Kyle Avery from Star Wars The Saga Continues. For those of you who don't know me, me and my co-host Tim, we talk about Star Wars Episode 7 all the time. So thought it'd be fun to jump in here and talk about it with some new people that I don't usually talk with Star Wars about on all the time like I do with Tim. But so I don't know, what have you guys covered already as far as theories and speculation and stuff like that?
What happened? We covered my theory. I'll just quickly reiterate is that something drastic has happened between this the time period between it episode 6 and 7 that has caused Luke to go not just to the dark side, but he's the Emperor. He's the Emperor, and Kylo Ren is his apprentice. And BB-8 is I don't have a theory for BB-8. He's just really cool.
No arguments there.
My theory was that, and I know this is somewhat popular, that the two characters, Rey and Kylo, are brother and sister, but they don't know they're brother and sister because they were so young when they were separated that they've forgotten each other. My theory is that Han and Leia are probably not together anymore because their kids are thought to be dead, and it tore their marriage apart. My thought is that Luke blames himself for the supposed death of the children because he feels like responsible for the fact that they are dead because they were under his tutelage. And possibly that Kylo was taken by the Knights of Ren, who were supposed to be the ones to try to kill Luke and kill the kids, and that he was then turned to their doctrine and worked his way up through the ranks and became their leader.
Cool. Okay, got my wheels spinning right there because a lot of stuff that you just said right there, Paul, is kind of similar to some of my own theories.
Okay.
I think Rey and Kylo Ren are probably related. I'm maybe not 100% sure on that yet. I am probably. I mean, I would bet money on the fact that Rey is Han and Leia's daughter. But I think that Kylo Ren is probably part of that same bloodline too. Especially, I mean, we've seen so much in the trailers. I mean, we know he's sort of a worshiper of Darth Vader, or someone who's wanting to follow in those footsteps. But from some of his lines, like when he says, I will fulfill our destiny. I'm like, I think he's connected to Vader in some way other than just aspiring to be like him. Like, I think he's Darth Vader's grandson. So yeah, I definitely think there's a family connection there. Now, my theory that I had kind of spun along there was, well, I don't. Paul, did you say that you think they're twins, or just that they're brother and sister?
No, I think they're brother and sister. I think Kylo might be older than Rey.
Yeah, that's what I think. I've heard a lot of people saying they think they're twins, but I
feel like that Luke went into hiding the same way that Yoda did because of the same reason that Yoda went into hiding, because he feels like he blames himself for what happened, and so he has to put himself into isolation.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think, I mean, I would maybe kind of agree with that a little bit, although I don't know that Luke necessarily thinks that they're dead. But I think that maybe Luke was training the two of them to be Jedi. Obviously something happened, but I think Luke was training other Jedi as well, and I think they're all dead. And I think that's probably why Luke has gone into hiding. I mean, maybe he knows that Rey and Kylo survived, maybe he doesn't. I don't think anyone assumes Kylo is dead, because if something bad happened to kill all the other Jedi that Luke was training, I think Kylo is probably a part of that. I think maybe Snoke weaseled his way in there somewhere and said, I'm going to pick one of these Jedi and try to turn him against the rest of them. you turned Kylo to the dark side sort of while he was still within the ranks of the good guys or whatever. So I'm thinking maybe Kylo was, I don't know, maybe around like 18 or so at the time that whatever went down, whenever all this happened.
So I know that JJ said that Rey has been on this planet for about 20 years. So.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, Kylo could be even older than Rey is. I don't know, but yeah, I think
I would say he was at least 10 whenever this stuff went down. That's my opinion.
Oh yeah, well for sure. But see, I didn't hear whatever you just said about Rey having been on Jakku for 20 years, because that kind of maybe changes my theory a little bit. I was thinking that maybe she had been around 10 or 12 and Kylo had been around 18 when he decided to go dark side, kill all these Jedi, and so Han and Leia took Rey to Jakku and said, I mean, we hate to abandon our daughter, but we're going to leave her on this backwater planet where her brother and the bad guys are never going to find her. And knowing that she's related to Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker, they probably would think that she's resourceful enough that she could survive in this harsh desert environment on her own. Now it's interesting though that you bring up that she's been there 20 years. Like if she's been there for 20 years, then she probably doesn't remember her family.
That's what I'm thinking.
And we've seen like, well, I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with all the TV spots and the international trailer and stuff, but there have been a few of those where there's like a scene between her and BB-8, and she says, oh, I know all about waiting for my family.
Right.
And so I kind of was assuming that, she remembers her family, and knows that, they're going to come back for her or something, but, maybe she was just old enough to remember that she had a family but doesn't remember who they are exactly, or maybe whoever she was left with on Jakku, because she seems to be pretty solitary, but I mean obviously at this point she's an adult. I don't think she grew up completely on her own. I think they would have left her with a foster family or something probably, so maybe whoever she grew up with told her, like, we're not your actual parents and your real family said they're going to come back for you someday.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that that she has either been left there on purpose or ended up there, and they don't know where she is. One or the other. I'm thinking that, personally, my thoughts are that she will end up running into Han and will not realize that he's her father. That's my thoughts.
Will he know that she is his daughter?
I don't think so. I think she was too small.
Well, I think he will, though, because I think whenever they meet up, she's going to have the Millennium Falcon.
We still don't know how she gets that.
We don't, except it's like, I mean, we have to assume it's on Jakku somewhere. So my thought is, whenever Han and Leia left her there, I think Han left the Falcon there with her. And I mean, it was like the biggest college savings fund he could ever give his kid. It's like one day you're going to grow up and you might get in danger. Like, in case the bad guys find out who you are and they come after you, well, what better getaway than to have the fastest ship in the galaxy? Even if I have to just leave it sitting around collecting dust for 20 years, rather than risk like coming back for her and giving it to her when she's older. He's like, I'm just going to leave it here. And so I think...
Yeah, and he loads it up with stuff that'll teach her about everything that he knows about, and little hologram messages and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, possibly. Except, I mean, obviously, I think once she finds him, he's going to tell her all that stuff in person. But yeah, so I think even though, obviously, she won't really look like... it'll be like 20 years since Han has seen her or something. I think he still might recognize some similarities, might see her and think like, oh, she's got my eyes or Leia's nose or whatever. Parents can tell that stuff with their kids. But then also, mysterious girl shows up in the Millennium Falcon. I think he's just going to have a good hunch.
Matt here on the side says that he says, good call, Kyle, on the Falcon being left with Rey. Makes sense, and that's why he says we're home in the trailer.
Yeah, I think Han and Chewie obviously haven't been on this ship in a long time, and I mean, from the stuff we've seen on Jakku, it looks like it's going to be just Rey and Finn in the Falcon. So whenever they meet up with Han and Chewie, I don't think it's going to be on Jakku. So I don't think Han's just sitting around on Jakku with the Falcon waiting to help them escape.
What are your thoughts on Poe, and where does he fit into all of this?
Um, You know, honestly, I mean, Tim and I have talked about this when they first announced the cast and everything. It seemed like Rey, Finn, and Poe were going to be kind of the new big three, like the new Han, Luke, and Leia. But at least from like the promotional stuff we've seen so far, I think Poe is going to have a little bit less of a role. Like, if anything, if there are going to be three main characters of this trilogy, I think it's going to be Rey, Finn, and Kylo Ren. Because I mean, obviously, like with the original trilogy, Vader was a huge presence and everything, but Kylo, like especially if he's related to Rey, he's much more sort of around their same age, sort of their contemporary, and not quite as much of like the omnipotent force of terror that Vader was. But Poe, I mean, I think he is going to sort of be maybe a catalyst for for some things at the beginning of the story. I think he's probably the first character we're going to see in the movie, at least the first main character. I think he's going to be sent on some mission to Jakku, and I don't know, maybe the bad guys are going to be hunting him first, and when we see the First Order torching that village and everything, I think maybe they're hunting him. Because obviously, like, we know he gets captured at some point. We know he and Finn escape together. So, and then, you know, later in the movie, we know he's going to have a big role in some of the big battle scenes and stuff. But as far as sort of the main driving force of the story, I think he's going to, I don't know, maybe kind of be there to kick things off at the beginning, and then maybe kind of play second fiddle to Rey, Finn, and Kylo for the rest of it. But I don't know. I mean, because I don't think he's going to have like a big family connection to anybody. Obviously, he's not going to be the one wielding the lightsaber or using the Force or anything like that. But
Anthony says, I think he's going to be the Princess Leia of this film. I don't know what that means, but kind of funny.
Well, I think what he's referring to is that he will have less screen time than the other two, and that he will probably be the one that has to be rescued from capture in this film.
Yep, Anthony confirmed that. He just popped up and said the same thing. The one who the main characters will be rescuing. So I asked Kyle. I asked Paul this question. What do you think is going to be the overarching objective or mission in this? Like, are they going to have a Death Star to blow up, or is this just going to be an assembly of the cast kind of film so that they can set up the next chapter?
No, I definitely think that whatever this Starkiller base is, I think that's the new Death Star. I mean, JJ's even talked about that in interviews. He said it's basically Death Star 3.0, but the logic behind it is that he's talking about like these new characters like General Hux, who would look back on the Empire and these new like evil guys who are trying to rise to power. Like, the only logical conclusion that they would come up with is that, well, man, you had Palpatine, you had Darth Vader, you had the Death Star, you had legions of stormtroopers. The only possible way that could have failed is that you didn't go big and ambitious enough. So let's build something even bigger. And from what we know of Starkiller Base so far, it sounds like, I mean, they kind of took the Death Star concept of that's no moon and took that up a notch to the point where, like, this is a planet that they like built a super weapon into. And then also, I mean, it sounds like both from the name and maybe from some rumors and stuff that we've heard that it doesn't just destroy planets, but can maybe like cause a chain reaction in a star to wipe out a whole solar system or something like that.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, obviously it does something big because, I mean, when the Death Star blew up Alderaan, it was just a big fiery explosion. But in some of the latest TV spots, I mean, there's this shot where all those stormtroopers that are gathered in front of the base part of Starkiller Base, it looks like General Hux is giving some speech or something, and then they all turn around and the whole sky just like lights up red. And I think it's that same red flare that Kylo Ren is looking at from the bridge of his ship that we've seen in some of the trailers. And so, I mean, I don't know what this thing is going to do. I don't know how the heroes are supposed to take it out. I don't know what their sort of end game is with this thing, but obviously it seems like this is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and definitely sort of one of the driving things behind the story.
It's possible it could create black holes.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or a gateway to another dimension. We could have a Star Wars, Star Trek crossover with the J.J. Abrams universes. No, I'm just joking. Just joking. So Stephen in the comments here says, "Gotta love the Star Killer reference to Luke's originally intended last name," and I think that's actually a hint that Luke is the Emperor and he's created the Star Killer base.
He's just not going to let that go.
You all see on the 17th.
So here's something else I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if you guys have already talked about this, but speaking of the Emperor, have you guys talked about the theory yet that Supreme Leader Snoke might turn out to actually be Darth Plagueis?
Yes, that was mentioned earlier, and actually I think it was Anthony who wanted to know what your thoughts were on that.
Yes, I mean, I think that's a really cool theory. I don't know if I necessarily support it, or I mean, I'm sort of on the fence about it, I guess. Like, obviously, we haven't seen enough evidence for me to say, oh yeah, that's definitely the case. I think it could definitely fit, so I'm not going to go like, oh no, that's impossible, because I think that would actually be really cool for them to tie the whole saga together like that, and bring in that reference from Episode 3. I mean, it would be cool if Snoke is a completely new character, but if he is, you know, secretly some character that we've heard of before, or if he's like some ancient Sith Lord or something, like, what better one for them to pick than the one who, you know, had this search for immortality. And then for the first 6 movies, you think that he failed and that Palpatine killed him, and, you know, Palpatine was the big bad guy who ended up sort of fulfilling the mission of the Sith and ruling the galaxy. And then he gets killed, and the good guys come back, and then, you know, 30 years later, you could find out, well, actually, he didn't kill Plagueis, and really, this has all been part of his master plan all along. I think that could be a really cool twist.
Yeah.
And again, I think there's enough evidence where, like, the pieces could fit, but there's not enough evidence of, like, from what we actually know about Snoke officially for me to say, like, oh yeah, that's definitely going to be the case. So I'm not predicting that it's going to happen, but I think it's a possibility, and I think it's a really cool possibility.
Certainly.
I think it's possible that Plagueis has the ability to switch bodies and be able to take on more than one form. And I think that he might be disguised as Snoke.
It could be. I mean, that's Charles in the comments mentions that Palpatine had achieved immortality through cloning, and even that he was like his essence was put into different bodies that weren't even clones of Palpatine, were they? I thought they were some others. Like, I remember that from the Dark Empire stories.
Yeah, I thought they were just clones, unless he, like, possessed Luke or something at some point, but I don't know. Like, honestly, I never really followed that storyline too closely. And one of my sort of biggest pet peeves in Star Wars and in fiction in general is when you have a really cool character and then you kill them off and then you decide you want to bring them back. And so it's like, hey, let's say they clone themselves. Like Force Unleashed 2 was a fun game, but just the most lazy story idea ever. It's like, you know, the first game was fun, and I can understand you wanting to make a sequel to it, but if you were going to do that, you should have not killed off the protagonist at the end of the first game, because then the fact that it was like, oh, hey, let's say they cloned him and make a second game, it's like, no, it's not the real character. But I mean, that's what intrigues me so much about Plagueis, is that it wouldn't be, oh, he died but he cloned himself. It would be like, oh, he actually found some secret to immortality, or at least cheated death as far as, like, you know, Palpatine didn't really kill him. He might not be completely immortal, because let's be honest, that would make for kind of not that interesting of a villain. Like, what's the point of the story if the heroes absolutely can't kill him at all? But, you know, maybe he found some way to cheat death the one time that Palpatine thought he killed him and is still out there.
What I was referring to was him having the ability to possess another body, almost like demonic possession type situation. You know, and if you killed the body he was in, if he wasn't jumped into another body at that point, then he would die. But, you know, possibly he jumped into another body before Palpatine killed him.
Yeah, which could very well be possible. Or, I mean, Palpatine could have even killed him, but maybe the Sith can do something where, maybe sort of similar to the Jedi, where their spirit lives on, but they can't like totally move on and become one with the Force. But yeah, they're just kind of drifting around for a little bit and try to find a new body to inhabit, kind of like a Voldemort thing going on. I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna have to leave you two to continue the conversation because I have kids that I have to put to bed. So I'm gonna jump off of this call and turn it over to you guys. But I want to thank everybody for having me part of the conversation. Good to see you again, Paul. We haven't actually done anything together since the Daredevil Roundtable we did before, and we'll be back again in January talking about Jessica Jones, which I'm very excited about. Kyle, nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
And thanks especially to Charles and Anthony over on the side there with their comments. Great comments. Thanks. But I will see you all whenever, next time. See ya. Bye.
Take it easy, brother.
All right, so... Oh, there we go. Okay, so he left. So is one of us like the moderator now who can see people's comments and stuff?
You should be able to see it on the YouTube page. Do you have that link?
Right. Okay, I am heading over there in a second.
Yeah, if you see me looking over my head, I'm looking at the screen up above my computer so I can see the comments.
Well, see, I just pulled it up on YouTube and it says comments are disabled for this video. So obviously I don't have the right link.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, wait, no, I see it. Never mind.
Yeah, it's down towards the bottom.
It's not the regular comments. It's something else. So.
It's underneath.
Oh, well, see, mine's on the side, but...
okay. Well, okay, I made my screen smaller. Now I can see it on the side. Of course, you realize there's a delay on the video, right?
Oh, I paused the video. I was like, that's just going to mess me up. All right, so anyway, where were we talking about? Snoke and Plagueis and all that good stuff.
Yeah. There was a question that came up a minute ago in the chat about who do you think, or do you think that Rey was crying over a body?
Oh, gosh. Do we have to get into this? I mean, I just feel bad almost because I feel like I'm going to like spoil it for some people.
Well, I mean, we don't have any evidence or proof one way or the other. It's just speculation, you know.
Yeah, but I think if you look really closely at that shot, you can see some evidence. But yeah, I mean, I'll just go out and say it. Spoiler alert if you don't want to know, but I'm pretty sure that's Han.
That's my theory.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard basically, like, I've heard people a lot, pretty much everybody I've talked to thinks it's either Han, Finn, or Chewie. But I mean, like I said, if you look closely, I mean, you can pretty much rule out Chewie right away because it looks like a brown leather jacket that either Han or Finn would be wearing. But then you can also see what looks like some gray hair and maybe a lighter skin-colored ear somewhere. So. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that's Han Solo. Which, I mean, on the one hand,
like, freeze frame it in order to see any real detail.
Yeah, and it's still, I mean, it's not real clear detail, but it's there.
Well, the reason I think that it's going to be Han is because I know that in both Empire and Jedi, Harrison Ford said that he wanted to see Han die a noble death. And he said that he felt like that it would add to the character, give him more depth and everything if he sacrificed himself for his friends. And so I know that Kasdan agreed with him on that. And so I think that is possibly put into this movie as a plot point. To possibly push the story forward. You know, maybe he's the Kenobi character in this movie, you know, which I think is really interesting to see the cocky smuggler turn into, you know, the voice of wisdom, basically, and the older kind of mentor character, you know, sort of like Qui-Gon, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and I'm right there with you. I think he is going to be sort of the Obi-Wan mentor type character of this movie. Because obviously at this point, I don't think we're going to see much of Luke. I think he might have like a couple solitary scenes like sprinkled throughout, but for the most part, I think it's going to be like a big reveal towards the end where the characters find him. And then, yeah, so for the most part, like Luke isn't going to be around to teach Rey and Finn about the Force. But we've seen some clips from the trailers already where Han is, you know, telling him at least a little bit. I mean, obviously he doesn't know as much about it as Luke did and as Obi-Wan did and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a cool juxtaposition between like where we saw Han in the original trilogy, and he's like, you know, hokey religions and ancient weapons, and I've never seen anything to make me believe there's this all-powerful Force out there. And now in episode 7, like he's